today is hangboarding. So like a lot of people don't have climbing walls in their house, which we have a small one in our garage, but it's kind of hard to do any kind of climbing training. And so we hangboard. And so hangboards they come in many different forms. And I made a video to kind of show you what I use our hangboard for. This is the newest kind of hangboard. It's super portable. So I take this when I travel. You can hang it from a tree. You can hang it anywhere you want. And it's got different slots to grab onto, different size slots. So the top is the biggest. So if you're just learning to hangboard, you do that. If you're getting better and better, the holes get smaller and smaller. So you kind of work up. You'll notice there's lots of chalk on this side. There's no chalk on that side because they're just so small, they just hurt my knuckles. So hangboarding, and you'll hear me say this in the video several times, it's a really great training tool, but it's also a really good way to get hurt really fast. So what I'll do is run the video through first. It's about 3 minutes, I think. It's pretty quick and easy to digest. And then I'll come back and talk to you about how you can build something super simple like this. I've built them with 2x10s or 2x4s or 1x2s, depends on how fit I want to be. And then we'll just answer any questions as far as like how you start, how you maintain, and how you kind of keep going without getting hurt. So if we could run that, Chelsea, that'd be awesome. Hey everyone, Craig from Adaptive Adventures, and if you've been climbing for any amount of time, even if it's a week, you're probably going to hear the term hangboarding. What is hangboarding? Hangboarding is a great training tool. It doesn't take the place of climbing, but what it does is help you get stronger in your everyday climbing. And a hangboard can be anything from what you're seeing right here above me. This is a Metolius hangboard, to something that you make on your own, which we'll kind of go through here, which are these strips of 1x2s that you use to hangboard with as well. And all hangboarding does is it targets your fingers and your hands and your shoulders. So basically the most important muscles as far as pulling goes are targeted by hangboarding. You're not really doing any specific movements, but you're just targeting those muscle groups to make them stronger and be able to pull harder when you are actually on a route climbing. So what we're going to talk about today is what is a proper technique to hangboard, what are the proper sizes to hangboard on if you're starting or if you're more experienced, and then really how often you should do it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use my regular hangboard here, and I'm going to show you first how to hang improperly, so that way we get that out of the way. What you want to do is when you're hangboarding, you want to engage your core, your shoulders, and your arms. And you want to be pulled up into a nice, strong position. The thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to sag down. And so sagging down would look something like this. Is as I pull up onto the hangboard, I'm just hanging down low. I'm not really doing anything. My hands are holding me there, but my shoulders are all hyperextended. And what that does is it pulls up and puts a lot of pressure on this joint, and you don't want to do that. You want to be controlling this joint and everything else. So the proper way to do it is I'm going to be doing an open-handed crimp. So I'm grabbing onto these holds. My hands are nice and down low, so the pads are just on the edges. And then what I do is I pull up into it, and I lift my feet off the ground, and I engage my core and lift up from there. So what I'm doing is my biceps are engaged, my shoulders are engaged, and so is my core, and that's where you're hanging from. So you can see that my arms aren't straight, they're slightly bent, and that's about as much bend as you want. And then when I'm done, I just lower down and let go. I don't drop off, because if you drop off, you can dry fire your fingers and you can hurt them again. Another thing a lot of people do is they'll go up too far. So as they pull up into it, they'll want to kind of do a lock off, and they'll pull up like this too far. And that's fine, it's a different kind of training, but if you're trying to do a hangboard specific training regime, you want to be hanging at that kind of nice, soft bend in your elbow, because that's where you're going to develop all that strength right here. So if you're using your homemade kind of hangboards, again, this is a 1x2 pre-drilled, so I don't crack the board, and then anchored in with 4 screws. And what I do is if you're just starting to hangboard, you want to definitely have a foot on. So what I do is I put a foot on a hold, get into my position, pull myself on, and I get in that nice cord up, tight position, right? My arm is slightly bent, my shoulders are engaged, My foot is on taking some of the weight. Then I step down. Don't drop down because again, you'll dry fire your fingers and you can hurt them. Hangboarding is very well known for hurting you, so definitely go easy. Less is more in this. So when you're starting, have at least one foot on. You may want to have both feet on just to take some of that pressure off of your hands. And what I do when I hangboard is I do sevens. So 7 of everything. Hang on to the edge for 7 seconds, drop down for 7 seconds, wait 7 seconds, pull back on. So you're doing 7, 7, 7. And I do that 7 times, so 7 repetitions of that. And that's one cycle. So then I do 7 rounds as well. So everything is 7. So if you really forget, it's just 7 times 3. Pretty simple to remember. So that's an easy way to do it. If you don't want to stay on for 7 seconds, that's fine too. Hang on for at least 5 and then drop down and stay off for 5 or 10. Go back up and do it again. I hangboard in this time, which is kind of a strange time, 3 times a week. That's probably a little too much. So you start off with 1 day a week. Hangboarding is one of those things that it takes time to see some gains. So just have patience. So that's kind of a basic overview of hangboarding. If you want to build your own at home, what I would suggest is start with like a 2x10 because then you have that nice wide area to start with. And you can mount your smaller boards like these 1x2s down beneath your high one. That way you have 2 different edges to work from, warm up on the big ones and then work down to the little ones. Remember, it does take time to see gains. So we're talking 4 to 6 weeks before you're going to actually see like some kind of progress where you're actually pulling and feeling stronger. So just make sure you take your time, give yourself enough time to actually get better and not injure yourself, and make sure you're doing this spread out. You don't want to be doing multiple days in a row. So I kind of, like I said, do 3 or so right now because of the weird COVID stuff going on. A regular time would be maybe twice a week. If you're just starting out, just go once a week just till you get your fingers warmed up and ready. That's about it. Stay healthy, and we'll talk to you and see you soon. So one of the big things just to pay attention to there is you're not doing pull-ups when you're hangboarding. So hangboarding is specifically just hanging. And I've worked with people who, like if they're in a wheelchair or they have a lot of mobility issues, they will take a board like this and go from their wheelchair or from whatever their device is that they're sitting in, and they will literally just pull into it without lifting out of the chair. So they're just building up that muscle memory because that's what hangboarding does, is it teaches your muscle memory and it builds up the joint tissues so that you don't injure your fingers when you're actually climbing. And it's kind of like really compact climbing training. So you're not doing it very long. So like those 7 seconds or 5 seconds or 2 seconds, whatever you're holding on to is a very short duration, and you're only doing it for a short amount of like repetitions. So when I do sevens, I do 7 in a row and then I rest for a day or 2 and I don't climb at all because you can injure yourself so quickly. But if you're patient and you use a board like this, or you use a 2x10 or a 2x4 or whatever you feel comfortable grabbing, you can actually spread it out over 6 to 8 weeks, kind of like I said, and then you'll start to see any kind of gain. And when I've worked with folks who are just starting climbing and just starting to just try to build up that hand fitness and the forearm fitness, that's what they can do. You're not grabbing on and doing pull-ups. You're not grabbing on to the smallest edge. You're grabbing onto the biggest edges and just hanging there nice and comfortably. And your muscle memory starts to kind of build on itself. And so over time, when you start to actually climb, like when you go to the climbing gym again, or when you get outside with us in one of our programs, you actually get to see like, oh, your muscle memory goes, oh, I know what we're doing and I know what I'm supposed to do. So remember to take it really, I can't stress that enough, to go slow. And I can't stress enough to start it 1 day a week with 1 or 2 feet on the ground, or even sitting, and then just pulling into it. It's called plyometrics, and plyometrics means you're giving resistance to your hand. And so just by pulling down, that's actually doing something. Even I'm just holding it with one hand and pulling, that is still training something. So even if you started that simple, like with a piece of wood where you're just pulling down on those fingers, that's going to start to build some of that muscle memory and some of the tendon health and cartilage health within the knuckles and the joints. So that's like a really broad brush painting of that. I'm also starting next week, we're starting like one-on-one trainings where you can kind of come in and say, okay, this is where I am as a person with, here's my fitness level. Here's what I'd like to do. So what do I need to do as far as that looks like, for climbing, for whatever you want to work that into. This is very climbing specific, but like we've been doing core classes once a week, and that obviously transfers to all the sports that we do here at Adaptive. So that isn't a big broad brush. I would gladly answer any questions you guys might have, though. I'll leave it up to you now. There are none.
Jim, do you have any questions?
Hey, Craig, this is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Yeah, I've got a question, Jim. What else could you do besides, like squeeze a tennis ball, stuff like that, to kind of build up your fingers? Like got one of these.
Those little hand trainers, Jim, are really great. Like that one that you held up second, the red that thing. Those work really great. And right next to my computer, I have a thing of tennis balls. That's what I do. I do that too. So I just sit there and I'll just play with them. Like I'll squeeze them like that. And then I squeeze them in the middle.
Yeah.
And I can't crush a tennis ball, but I can like just get it to kind of give a little bit. And that's all doing it's that same motion. That's what this does too, that this emulates what you're doing here. So tennis balls, those little red grippers are great. You can go on Amazon and buy like a climbing hand trainer, but you don't have to. Like what you have is really great. And also you can do it with just a really lightweight. Here, I have one right behind me. Where you're just holding, if you have a easy lightweight, you can even just holding them like this, where your wrist is engaged like that, it kind of gives that same kind of thing as doing this. So you're just trying to emulate what we do as we climb. And tennis balls are great for finger strength. And then any kind of like the gripping like this, like what you had, those A grips, those things work fantastic as well.
When you did the weight, did you have your wrist bent on the dumbbell? Was it straight or bent when you're holding the dumbbell?
Try to keep it flat. And then what I'll do is I'll bend it down and bring it up. Ooh, I'm bending. Bend it down and bring it up. Bend it down, bring it up. Really, really gently. So you're like this, kind of doing that. And I do those. That actually helps the reverse muscles is when you're climbing. So instead of you're building up that strength going the other way. So it actually helps you to kind of keep some mobility in your wrist as well. Because climbing is really hard on your wrists and hands, clearly. And so this is another way to make it worse for your hands. So doing things like this is the opposites of things. So it makes things feel better over time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've got arthritis in my left hand, and if I don't work it, they get tight.
And Jim, another thing I've seen with people who have really bad arthritis in their hands is they'll get a bag of rice, a bag of 5-pound rice, and just keep it in the bag and put your hand you're not going to eat this rice, I should say this. You put your hand in the rice and you just move your fingers. So you just do this in the rice. And it does amazing things for arthritis. I don't know why it works, but somebody showed me that a long time ago, and they do it now. Climbing gyms keep these big rice buckets now because it actually works quite well. And you just kind of do this. You're just doing that in the rice. And I don't know what it does, but it does something that works actually and makes the arthritis feel better.
Huh. Okay, thank you.
You bet. Anything else, Ricardo? You have anything?
Cool.
No.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you
And
guys.
feel free to reach out to Craig on his email or via Facebook if you have any further questions. And we'll be posting the video that you just saw up on Facebook so you can